That's fine.
Yeah. Um, the object or objectivity of morality. Is that what you'd like to? Would that be appropriate?
Sure, I can run with that.
Excellent. Do you want to? You can start recording if you wanted to. I don't really mind.
Sure. We're recording now.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So, if you can give me your breakdown, where do we stand with morality? Is that a God-given thing, or do we have free will for that certain choices we make for morality? Where do you stand?
Oh yeah. So my standard for morality is found in the objective Word of God, which I would say is revealed. It is an expression of His nature and His character. So it's not so much God says something is moral or immoral, and therefore that's the way it is, but rather it's an expression of His character. In other words, stealing isn't wrong because um, it, it takes things away from people that belongs to them, and adultery isn't wrong because it wrecks marriages. Stealing is wrong is because God is not a thief, and adultery is wrong is because God is always faithful. So it's a direct reflection of His character.
All right. I'm quite sure you've heard the term herd mentality, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. When something is good for the herd tends to do that, right?
Okay.
So if we find that doing something good is good for not only that person but for me too, we tend to pass that around. It becomes quote unquote a moral thing. Is that right or wrong?
Maybe. I mean, I I would say why. I would say that that's moving the goalpost. Why is doing um, why is that okay? Why is that right or wrong? Why is moving something along that helps society a good thing? Why isn't somebody's happiness trump that? Why isn't somebody's happiness ultimate over that?
Because you're talking about one person. What I'm talking about is the herd mentality. Our morals come from that specific herd mentality. You'll have to excuse my bird's going to talk to you the entire time through this. But what comes from our herd mentality is our morals. What's good for one and works for all becomes that so-called moral thing.
Yes.
We don't kill each other because we don't want to be killed.
Well,
That's a moral thing.
well,
And we get those morals from that herd mentality. Go on, sorry.
that's okay. So what if okay, let's say we have two different groups of people, and we'll call them herds, since that's the term you want to go with. And one herd of people says it's okay to kill Jews because they're not really people, and the other one says that it's not okay because they find that they have intrinsic value and dignity. Um, why is one more correct or more moral than the other?
Well, they're not more moral than the other. They are just their morals. Again, we get our morals, for want of a better word, I'm sure there's something out there to explain what I mean, but we get our morals from what we as a society, whether that's our little tiny cliquey group or the entire world, from those around us.
So
Now, my morals are going to be completely, I'm quite sure, different from yours. Even my neighbours, another atheist, another Christian, it doesn't matter. What I class as moral, another one go, well, no, you can't have that. I don't like that. That's how we live. That's society. And there is no God to say that, all right, these are the morals, and then we've got these different sectarian groups of morals, and then those splinter groups from those. You know, it really is. We get our entire morality from the herd mentality. Okay. It's a social and it's a moving thing. It's a changing thing. What was immoral 100 years ago, for instance, wearing a bikini on a beach, was classed as immoral, and people were arrested for that. Today, it's like, okay, at least you're wearing something. You know, point of fact.
Well, see, I would disagree there because I would still hold that there is a standard that you can deduce from Scripture to hold that wearing a bikini on the beach is immoral, and it's something I would not allow my daughter to do, for example. So it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying that morals are very much subjective and that they change with time. Is that correct?
They are. No, I absolutely, yes, you spot on. I think morality is subjective. It cannot be objective because objectively, owning slaves was moral and right.
Well,
Objectively,
well,
according to the Bible, and that's how a lot of what was it, back in the 17 and 1800s of America,
so
people owned
there's
slaves.
nothing really wrong with owning slaves, right? Nothing intrinsically inherently wrong with it, right?
What? Wait. All right, I kind of get where you're going with this, but please elaborate.
Sure. Well, first of all, you bring up this issue of slavery in the Bible, and it's probably it's when you think of slavery in the Bible, and then you think of Western slavery in the 19th century. It's not the same. It's not the same slavery. It's a form of Roman slavery, and it's very sinful. Hebrew slavery was a means of restitution, and it was also a means for the impoverished to feed their family, and it was and many times voluntary. But my main point is, even if, let's say, slavery is a wrong thing because it approaches on people's uh, on their freedom. What is wrong with taking someone's freedom away? And you've already said that morals are subjective. So objectively, there's really nothing wrong with it. Ultimately, your atheism can't account for objective morals. So it's really just a preference, an arbitrary preference at this point.
All right. Well, I don't think atheism is a choice. I don't think, believe me, had I had my way, I was a Christian for 35 years. My father, to this very day, is a pastor of a small church. I, I wanted to emulate my father and went to school to study the Bible to become a minister. I went to colleges.
Okay.
But to say, oh, I don't even know how to word this right now. I, it seems to me, and you're going to have to beg me. Sorry, I'm going to have to beg your pardon here a little bit. It seems like you're still trying to use the Bible to prove the Bible. I mean, you obviously take it as factual.
Oh, for sure. I have no qualms with using the Bible as my starting point and ending point because I'm a Christian, and as soon as I point to something outside of the Bible, whatever I'm pointing to, whatever source that I'm pointing to outside of the Bible has necessarily become my ultimate authority. And since I'm a Christian, I don't do that. I start with the Bible, and I start there. And
I appreciate that.
the argument can be that that's circular, and we can go there, but I would say that circular reasoning is only a fallacy when you start with something that's not ultimate. And at the end of the day, Christians are not rationalists, but I would say that rationalists are not rationalists. We all have a faith position. Um, so I would say, go ahead.
If we all have a faith position, what would my faith position be?
Well, what is your axiomatic starting point for any intelligibility?
My brain.
Your brain. So your reason, would you say? Is that a fair statement?
I wouldn't say it's a fair statement, but it's probably the best we're going to get. Yeah, all right, we'll go with that. Yes.
Okay, your reason. And how do you know that your reasoning is a proper tool that you can use to reach logical conclusions?
I'm gonna poke a guess in the air here and say you've done a lot of study with Saiten Bruggencate,
Well, I mean, it's
or at least the apologists of the those kind of people.
sure.
The
It's
presuppositional apologists.
presuppositional, yes, sir. That I'm a again, I start with the Bible and I end with the Bible, and
All
so
right.
I'm a
Well,
presuppositionalist.
why would you presuppose that your presupposition is correct? Because I could presuppose the flying spaghetti monster exists and he's only existed for the past 10 years, but he existed before that because we didn't know. That's a presupposition.
Well, right.
I'm starting with that as the starting point
Well,
for all of my arguments, but I can't prove that, can I?
what you're failing to realize is you also have a presupposition, and your presupposition is your reason. You're
No, 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 no,
you
no.
you are an
I
atheist, so you don't start with the flying spaghetti monster. And if you did, we could debate that. But as it stands, you're an atheist, and that's what I'm challenging. Um,
okay, but I was not always an atheist, as I said.
well,
Christians.
you weren't all I mean, you weren't a Christian either because you know
The No True Christian. Are we going to No True Scotsman? Please tell me we're not doing that.
what's that?
Please tell me we're not going the No True Scotsman theory here.
Well, I mean, again, I start with the Bible and end with the Bible, and the Bible says that those who,
As I did. I did the same thing.
right,
Why was
but,
I not a true Christian?
right, and now you're an apostate.
Yes, I am. But what says I was not a true Christian back
Well,
then?
if we're talking, I mean, now we're getting into a bit of a theological discussion, but were you a Christian in the sense you were in the covenant, you were baptized, and you were raised in a Christian home? Yes. I mean, in that sense, I could say Judas was a Christian. Was Judas the elect? No. He betrayed the King of Kings. And in that case, are you the elect? Well, I don't know if you are or not, but if you have strayed from the path of the truth, then you clearly have not kept the covenant, and you were an apostate, so you were never a Christian in the sense of being the elect. So we're talking.
Are you a true Christian then?
Oh yes, yeah.
All right. What is the definition of a true Christian, if you don't mind?
Sure. I mean, someone who confesses with their mouth and believes in their heart that Jesus is God, and that the Father raised him up the third day, and he came to die on the cross for sinners.
So are Catholics Christians?
Some of them are, I believe. I think again, these are theological.
Well, I'm generalizing, of course.
Generalizing.
I'm saying it's
I would call them Christians, and I know that I would even within my own within my own camp. I'm a Reformed Christian. I'm a Calvinist. People would like to argue me on that point, but in the general as general as you can get, yes, I would call them Christians. They believe in the Trinity, and they've been baptized in a Trinitarian baptism.
Does it? I have to ask. Does it bother you at all that you might be a bit of the lone peg in the round board? Have you been thinking that?
Can you elaborate?
Well, if you believe that they could be classed as Christians, and as you said, there are others in the same camp as you that would go, well, that's not right. Does that come to your forebrain at all and go, why? I mean, if I think like this, why don't they? Why is there a difference in your opinion?
No, well, okay. Well, now I see what you're saying. Well, it's not just me that would think this way. There's within Christianity, there are many different camps, as I'm sure you're aware of, and I think that's where you're going. Why is my interpretation?
Yes.
Well, that's like saying, because there's many counterfeit dollar bills out there, that there can't be one true way. Now, could I be wrong about some theology? Yes, I could, absolutely. And I'm humble enough to admit that, and I'm also humble enough to be corrected, but I'm humble enough to be corrected through Scripture, and because that is my standard. So if somebody can take me to the Word and tell me where I'm wrong on these areas, I'd be willing to submit to that, but
well, if I could be allowed to point at a couple of things.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I don't want to have a go at you.
No, this is fine. This is cool.
As long as you're good, I don't want to be argumentative. Again, a discussion.
No.
But I trust that you take the Book of John as fact, right?
Yep, I do.
And also 1st, 2nd, 3rd John and Revelation, right?
I take all the books of the Protestant Bible, all 66 books.
We'll grant that as taken in. Every book is factual, and what they state is what happened, right?
That's right.
I have a question regarding the book of Luke then. John, beg your pardon. John is apparently written by the disciple John, or claimed to be, right?
Okay.
Well, do you accept that as fact?
Well, here's the deal. If you're going to try to have a Bible study with me, one thing I do not do is I do not debate the Bible. with
I don't want you to
it's,
debate the Bible.
well, the
No,
reason I don't do that is because again, I'm a presuppositionalist, and what we're going to do is we're going to interpret these facts subject to our presuppositions. This is
yeah,
why we can put a fossil in front of us, and you can say millions of years, and I can say a flood. So, in that sense, we're going to be chasing our tails. But I'm still with you. So, yes, I take you said the Gospel of John. Yes, I take that as authoritative and revelation from God. Yes.
um, I want to take that further, but before I do, I need to ask one question.
Sure.
Why?
Why what?
Why do you take that as the literal word, and what happens and stated there by this alleged person actually happened?
Oh, it's easy because revelation from God. The same way you know. Same way.
All right, but I'm going to presuppose here a little bit. You know the Bible at least as well as any other Christian out there. The book of John doesn't mention even half of the things that happened in Mark, Matthew, and Luke, but this is by the guy who was actually there, allegedly.
Right, because it's an account. It's not meant to be an exhaustive, in-depth detail of every single everything that happened. It's just an account. But
all right, but if that's going to be an account, you want that to be an account of the important things, right?
okay.
So why didn't the book of John mention the resurrection of Lazarus?
I'm sorry, I don't understand why.
The book of John, which is allegedly
Yes,
written by
I know the
disciple.
story. I know the story of the resurrection of Lazarus, but I'm not understanding the question.
The question is, why doesn't the book of John mention it? It's an important event.
Right. Well,
Why doesn't John mention it?
right. Well, there's important events in Luke and Matthew and Mark that aren't mentioned in John. I mean, again, it's
Well, that's because Matthew and Luke copy from Mark. Luke copying from
well,
Matthew.
that's your claim, but
well, no, it's a provable claim. It's not just a claim with no evidence.
I mean,
it's provable.
You talk about proof, but can you even prove the existence of proof in your atheistic worldview? I mean,
there are biblical scholars out there who are Christian who also agree.
Right.
I'm not sure where you're going with this, because it seems like you're trying to create a straw man and saying, oh, if you believe that, you're not a true Christian. But there are Christian scientists who also believe the exact same thing. People who study this have spent their entire lifetimes still Christians and still going, well, that's obviously not right.
Well, I mean, I can't speak to them because I'm not sure who you're talking about. And but again, I would say that without God, you have no foundation for any intelligibility, including using your reason to come to any ostensible contradictions in the Bible. And I would ask, what's wrong with contradictions in the atheistic worldview? We're just time and chance reacting on matter, and we're just atoms banging around. Contradictions could just as well be something that is not fallacious than it is. So.
But I've got to ask, what do you think my worldview is?
Well, I honestly, you're an atheist, so honestly, what I think atheism is really nothing. That's what it is. It's lack of belief. It can't account for morality. It can't account for laws of logic.
It can't account for anything. Atheism does not account.
It's a meaningless. It's a meaningless statement. Is all it is. Is what atheism.
It's not even a statement, but it is meaningless as a worldview. All it is. It has nothing to do with a worldview. That's why it's so meaningless. All atheism is, dare I say, you say there is a God. I say I don't believe you. Prove it. And to date, so far,
right,
we've seen no proof. That's all atheism is. Anything you add to atheism beyond that has nothing to do with atheism.
I can prove it to you right now if you want.
Please do. Believe me. I would love for you to do it.
What's 2 plus 2?
4.
Okay, well, you believe in God then. Where's the number 4? Where's it at?
Well, where's the number 2? The numbers are not physical things. They are things we understand.
Right. So how do you account?
And can show.
How do you account for abstract, immaterial, inanimate entities and such as laws of logic, or the number 2 or the number 4?
We can show how those logical formalities work. We can't show the logical formalities for any deity, let alone Yahweh.
Yes, but you say we can show how they work, but what you're doing is you're appealing to your reason, and that's something, again, that's a
And isn't
presupposition.
that is not reason the only thing we can go to? I
No.
mean, what else? Foregoing the existence or non-existence of a God, personally, everyone goes to their reason for every action and inaction they make.
Yes, but my
That's
reason,
what that's
but
that's a
but
human thing,
but what
right?
I'm saying is my faith gives me a basis for my reason. It gives me a basis for rationality, and I'm saying that you do not have a basis. You were time.
Well, all right. You state your faith gives you the basis. Why can't I say that my previous faith gave me the basis?
What your previous faith in God?
Well, in anything.
Well, I mean,
And once again,
but
but,
you
but
don't, you don't have to say that because I already know that that's your presupposition, and that's fine. But what I'm going to do I'm going to challenge your presupposition. I'm going to
you're going to
challenge,
presuppose a presupposition.
I'm going to challenge your reason, right? I mean, you say your ultimate starting point, your axiomatic starting point, is your reason. Now, how do you know? No, I don't. You know, you've already charged me with parroting Cites and Bruggencate, but I mean, guys go much further back than presuppositional than this. You have guys
Well,
like
I've seen a few of them. They're from
right. You
the
have
Tower of
Van
Power.
Til, you have Greg Bonson, you have all kinds of guys.
Vance Hill. Oh,
So
anyway, anyway, go on.
how do you know that your reasoning is valid?
Well, how does anyone? How do you know yours is?
Well, I
How do
know.
you know your reasoning of that presupposition
Well, I know it
involved
the same way
is
you
not
do, and it's not. Again,
correct? And again,
I'm not trying to insult you or anything, but what I'm
no,
saying
I'm
is
not taking
that
insult.
I don't think that you can't reason to logical conclusions. I think you can, which is why I believe that you are living in the world like you know that God exists. You do have the same basis, but your faith and yourself, which believes you have the criteria within yourself to reach these truths, hinders your submission to faith in God, and it reduces your worldview to absurdity.
Well, if my worldview is absurdity, what do you think of the Hindus or the Jews or the Muslims?
Are you a
Is it the
Hindu or a
same?
Jew or a Muslim?
Would it matter?
Well, it kind of would matter. I mean, considering we're debating each other.
Well, what? You have to give me an explanation for that. Why would that matter?
Well,
So
because
I don't believe the same God as you.
well
It doesn't
because
matter
you
if I
don't.
believe in a God or I believe in no
Well,
gods.
it's
If
very
I don't
simple.
believe in the same God as you,
But
why would that matter?
because you do not believe in a God, period. So I'm debating an atheist. I'm not debating a Jew. I'm not debating.
Well, I don't. It's not that I don't believe in a God. Period. I'm not stating there is no God. What I am saying, quite clearly, is I don't think there is a God, as I see no proof. I'm
Right.
not emphatically stating because
And when you
from there I'd have a belief, if you will.
right.
I don't have a belief. I lack the belief.
Right, and when you
So
make
being an
and when you make that positive statement that you don't make a positive claim that there is no God, you just lack belief. What you fail to realize is that in conjunction with that statement is another positive claim, and that is that you're able to ascertain truth or come to conclusions via your reason, but you have no justification for it, and that's absolutely
why don't I have a justification for
well.
it? You keep repeating this.
Well,
I need you to
I've
explain.
asked you to well, you haven't answered the question. I've asked you how do you know your reasoning is valid, and you've answered with the question. Well, how does anybody know the reasoning is valid? And I've told you revelation from God, but you haven't given me an answer how you know your reasoning is valid. So that's why I believe it's reduced to
Do I?
absurdity.
Do I? So you think? Well, let me put. Do I think my reasoning is valid? Yes, but to me, it's not going to be valid to you because it's not your reasoning. It's mine. What I reason is valid to me.
So it's subjective.
It may not be valid to you. Yeah, absolutely it
So
is.
you could be a brain in a vat, right?
Well, yes, and I do love that Seidenberg and Kate reference. I really
Could
do.
you?
I'm not trying to
No,
take the
that's
piss.
fine.
I'm just saying.
So,
I like that one.
well, let's just go down the Bruggencate road because could you be wrong about everything you know?
Yes, yes, I could.
Could you be wrong about that?
Absolutely.
Could you be wrong about that? Do you understand that you're
Yeah,
refusing?
but again,
You're
the same questions apply to you, though.
and
Could you be wrong?
no, I can't. And that's the thing is that I have a way out and
Then
you don't. I can't.
no, your way
There's
out
some
is
things I
almost
cannot be wrong about. Some things I could be wrong about. But there's certain things I cannot be wrong about.
but then again, we're in a circular reasoning right there.
Well,
I'm
sure,
not
but
wrong
so is
because I cannot be wrong.
but you, which again,
But no, mine's
you
not
fail to
circular.
realize
Mine is, am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong. Could I be wrong? Sure. Am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong. Could I be wrong? I don't know.
yeah, and that's
Mine's not circular. Yours is.
so
You're going
your
right.
reasoning isn't circular. So do you use your reason to justify your reasoning?
My reasoning is, again, what I class as reasonable.
Okay,
That's
and when
what
you
I
and when you class it as reasonable, do you use your reason to class that as reasonable?
Of course I do.
Okay, and do you not see the circle there?
I'm going to guess here. You understand we're human, right? As humans, we do weird things. The way our brains work is an oddity.
Do you know that?
Well, who doesn't?
Well, you said
You know.
you could be wrong
It
about
doesn't matter whether you can say,
Well, you
"Oh,
said-
I don't know that," or "I do know." Well, according to you're given this wise insight.
Right, but
I
you
know
couldn't
it
even
right.
know that the words coming out of your mouth mean the same things that they meant 5 minutes ago, or that they'll mean the same thing now as they do in 5 minutes.
Correct. I don't object to that.
So are we wasting our time?
I would wonder the same thing. Look, all I need to know is why you would presuppose that. That's something I've never gotten out of any presupposition yet.
Sure, that's a fair question. Why would I presuppose this? Because without the presupposition of God, your worldview is reduced to absurdity, and you can't make sense of anything. You know that God exists by everything that you make sense of. Because you know 2 + 2 = 4, and these immaterial, abstract concepts exist, and we can all live by them. We can know that God has that is a direct revelation from God. You cannot account for that in your worldview, and you might not agree with my justification for it, but as it stands, I have a justification for it, and you do not.
All right, fair enough. No, I get that. I do. I don't agree, but no, I do get it. I do. Well, look, I've enjoyed the hell out of this. Can we do this again?
Yeah, I would love to.
All right. Next time we might actually follow our original thought, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, for sure.
We got a little sidetracked. Look, I appreciate your time, mate. I really do. It's getting on to putting kids to bedtime very shortly and feeding them, and oh, geez, I've got to cook tea and all.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. If you're all right with this, we'll do this again very soon.
Yeah, I would enjoy it. Would enjoy it.
All right, mate. I appreciate your time. You take care of
All right,
yourself.
James, thanks.
Cheers, mate.